What's up? We are here for a quick checklist. The 5 things that I think you should do in planning your fitness going into January that you need to do right now in December. Let's go. The big thing is that before we get to January, we need to know where we are right now. I have a lot of clients. I've had a lot of clients. It's not what you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago when you were back in high school. It is what you're currently at. That is the biggest starting point. So first and foremost, we need to do a checklist. We need to do some baseline testing. And we need to make sure we're set up for success. If we do this, we're ahead of 99% of everyone else going into January where they're starting from scratch. Make sure you stick around for number 5. Number 5 is going to be our longevity killers, the things that I see my clients doing on a consistent basis that we need to get out of here. Our number 1, right? Number 1 on the list is our training. And I already mentioned it, but we need to set our baseline. We need to test to figure out where we currently are. Lucky for you, if you've been around or you are new here, I have created the longevity score sheet for you. It'll be linked in the description. You can test a multitude of facets that are going to help with your longevity, balance, power, relative strength, absolute strength, all the mobility tests, and I've got some fixes already made in videos, so check all those out. But basically, we want to get that baseline test to know exactly where we are, where we rank for our age, which I've done for you as well. And that's going to set us up for success in knowing exactly where we want to go or where we need to achieve. What is already at a high level and what are the buckets that need to be brought up? That automatically should help us develop our goals moving forward. So you do the full baseline testing over the course of a week or two. You're going to know really quickly, hey, I'm weak with my conditioning, I'm weak with my balance, I need to improve those. Hey, my absolute strength, my relative strength, those are great numbers. Hey, back off those. We don't need to train those as much. Let's be intelligent with our training. I'm not saying take those away from your training. You enjoy doing those, but let's make sure we're becoming the well-rounded athlete in 2026. So let's bring up those baseline tests. I typically find that the tests that everyone wants to avoid, most people don't want to do the mobility test, most people don't want to do the balance test, tend to be their weakest points. So make sure you're kind of forcing yourself now again in December to test some of those weak areas. Those are going to be the ones that are going to benefit us the most, and we have to make sure that we're doing those tests. I would set up a list of about 5, right? If you know you're good at relative strength, maybe you've already tested off one of my videos, skip those. We don't need to do the relative strength test. We kind of know where we're at. Pick the areas that you already know you're going to be a little bit weak. Pick 5 tests from there, and let's start with that. We don't want to have a giant funnel as we start off the year. We want to kind of pick our poison, know where we want to train, get into those, and develop those attributes a little bit more precisely. So creating those goals around our training is going to be a huge point of this, and making sure we're extremely specific with those. Don't set goals that you think you want or that you think you're going to need. Let's know. Let's not go in blind, and let's train what we need. That's going to be the differentiator between you having success in 2026 versus another year, maybe like 2025, where it was more of a maintenance program. You moved a lot, but you didn't really see the results you wanted to see. The ones you need the most are typically those silent killers, right? They're the ones that you're not paying attention to. Maybe it's my knee aches a little bit when I sit down on the bed. Those are the ones that are killing your performance in the gym, and they're the ones that are going to allow us to get a little bit better. So focus on those. Let's write those down right now. If you need to pause the video, write down those goals, and let's take those steps today. Number 2, our second piece on this list, and if you're one of my clients, you know exactly what we're going into because the exercise means nothing without the nutrition. So diving into nutrition, how do we maximize what we're doing currently in December to benefit us the most in January as we start attacking some new goals? Well, obviously it's the holidays, right? We know that we're going to have more sugary foods, more processed foods. That's just kind of part of this time of year. So we need to make sure we start breaking those down and getting into our good habits. Protein, always being our number 1, right? Making sure we're getting our quality protein sources, not relying on protein shakes unless we're using them again as supplementation, which is exactly what they are. We need to make sure we're getting that whole food switch. So if you're struggling right now, hey, processed foods here or there because I'm busy, start small, make a change to 1 meal, and we'll build from there. If we're able to switch out 1 takeout meal for a good home cooked meal, that's a huge difference. Adding vegetables to a meal, huge difference. So make sure we're starting to focus on changing up how we're perceiving those whole foods and making sure we're adding some of those back in. Outside of protein, we'll kind of go into 2 other small pieces. One of those is going to be fiber. Fiber is one of the other ones that I'm really pushing right now with a lot of my clients, is making sure that we are digesting everything the right way, helping with some bloat. None of us, most of us, are not getting enough vegetables in, we're not getting those high fiber foods, we're getting a lot of protein in, and actually that's gonna be a little bit of a push-pull where we're getting a lot of protein, but we're not getting the fiber to help digest some of that protein. So increasing that fiber, that's gonna be our vegetables. Obviously, you could supplement with that as well if need be to kind of help start boosting you in that right direction. But again, that'll come with a lot of our whole foods as well. And the last piece of our nutrition is, we could go into a full-fledged video on this alone, but is making sure that we are hitting the calories that we need to hit to make sure that we are hitting the goals that we want to hit. If we're trying to lose body fat, we need to be in a calorie deficit of 250 to 500 calories. It is math every single time. If you're not tracking, or if you have not tracked specifically a couple of your meals, you're just guessing. So make sure you are trying to track at least temporarily for a couple of meals to know exactly where you are to build off that. If you're trying to gain, we're in that 250 to 500 surplus. So just working within those, making sure, again, the food is clean, but making sure that we are starting to track those calories a little bit more closely, because again, the holidays is when things start slipping up. We get into a mode where we start having that little snack here, a little chocolate there, and those calories start creeping up. And by January, we're very surprised that, hey, I gained 2, 5, 6, 7 pounds. Where did that come from? Well, it came from that. So locking in our calories, make sure we start doing a little bit of tracking. Don't have to be miserable tracking, but track a couple days. Make sure your quantity of your food is where you want it. We'll go into number 3 now. Now, number 3 is going to specifically touch on supplements, because everybody wants to know, what supplements should I be taking to benefit myself the most? Well, again, we've already talked about it. Nutrition, we need whole foods. That was number 2. That's one of our big standards of excellence we need to hit. So supplements, we're gonna focus on 3 simple ones, right? Protein, we've already talked about it a little bit. We need to make sure we're getting our protein in. Now, collagen is not the same thing. It's not gonna feed our body the same way. So making sure we're getting a simple whey protein or a casein protein if you wanna get that slow digestive benefit. But simple protein, you don't need 2 shakes a day, 1 good shake a day, specifically after that workout if you have a workout. 2 is gonna be creatine. Creatine is one of the most widely studied. I don't think I have to beat a dead horse about creatine at this point. It is a massively helpful supplement across the board. Male, female, young, old, the mental health benefits that it's showing, obviously the strength benefits that it's showing. You don't need to be a bodybuilder. You don't need to be a strength athlete. You should be doing it to maximize your results. So about 3 to 5 grams a day is that sweet spot. Timing, make sure you're having your creatine around the same time each day, and you're perfect. And then the third supplement we'll talk about today is vitamin D. So if you are someone that's in cold weather territory, the sun isn't gonna be shining as much now. It is December. We're talking about how we maximize into January. Vitamin D is gonna be that big one, making sure that we're getting that supplemented in now, early, for energy and for mood. That needs to be a big piece of the puzzle for us here in this month. And then I'll do a 3B real quick with fiber. I've already kind of mentioned it, but making sure you're getting that fiber in as well for digestive health, so we're not feeling that bloat, we feel nice and lean, and that helps us with our digestion. The last thing we'll say is skip the detoxes, skip the teas, skip the fat burners. Those are not helping you. Spend your money on the whole foods. Do things the right way. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be the fast way, but if you commit to it, you're gonna see results really quickly and much better than you're gonna do with some of those other supplements. And our 4th pillar, our 4th topic of discussion here today is gonna be mobility. Again, something we all wanna shy away from. I don't do enough mobility myself in my training. And how are we gonna break that down here in December to maximize January? Well, again, keep it simple. I've already laid out in other videos some simple tests that you can do. They're gonna call out where you might have some deficiencies. One big one being that overhead squat test. That's gonna tell you where you're weak in your shoulders, your T-spine, your hips, your knees, your ankles, and that's gonna allow us to kind of pinpoint an area and start training that area up a little bit. And that's what I really wanna focus on today, is making sure that we are locked into one area. Where is the biggest weak spot that you're struggling with? Is it your shoulders? Is it your hips? For me, it would be shoulders. Can't touch my hands behind my back. So picking that one joint, 10 minutes a day, and attacking that. So many of us, like strength training, like conditioning, get caught up in a whirlwind of all of this information. Keep it so simple that you can't mess it up. We train that shoulder, we work on the mobility of that shoulder until that shoulder is where we want it. Then we pick that next joint and start building out that next joint. Now that doesn't take away that we don't maintain those other joints as we go. You still stretch them, you still do some mobility, but the emphasis, the heavy training, just like you would do if you're trying to get a higher back squat, right? You do heavy back squats. If you want to get your shoulders better, you got to focus on that mobility in your shoulder. All right, and here we go. The one we've been waiting for, number 5, our 3 longevity killers. Now the first one, simply inconsistency, not being consistent with the training, right? We're talking about longevity. We're talking about training 60 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus, 85, 90 plus years old if possible. That's the dream. We need to be consistent. Everyone looks at their training. Oh, I got to be super intense. I got to do these crazy high intensity workouts that are going to get my heart rate super high and are going to be all over the place. Just be consistent. Just get your 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to set for your goals, sessions in each week, and make sure you can do that over and over and over again. That's going to be the key. Obviously, make sure there's some changes in your sessions, but make sure we're staying very, very consistent with it. Intensity will happen when the body is ready to push. You'll have days that are great intensity, but you got to also have those days that are low to maintain that consistency. So trust that process. Make sure we're consistent. That's number one. Number two is going to be pain avoidance, right? You're training. Maybe you're training intensely. Maybe you're just training consistently and things are just kind of catching up with you from muscle imbalance. However your program's set up, things are just not working out perfectly. You start feeling some pain. Do not avoid it. We need to make sure we're training around it or through it and make sure we're rehabbing it. If your shoulder hurts, don't stop training your shoulders completely. Obviously, don't stop training completely at all. We can train our legs. There's a lot of things that we can do. There's other things we can focus on. If it's your shoulder again, you can start dominating some conditioning. Build out your aerobic capacity. Build out your VO2 max. There's ways that we can get around that, but also make sure you're dialing it in immediately. Something starts aggravating you in the shoulder. Remember, it could be your ribs. It could be your pelvis. Things could be working through the kinetic chain the wrong way. Get to it immediately. If you need to get some PT work in, whatever that is, take care of it as soon as possible. Get right back on that horse and keep training, number one, consistently. So that's number two, pain avoidance. Let's not avoid pain. Let's make sure we're taking care of business. All right, and our number three longevity killer is all or nothing training, right? You get into a phase where you're like, I got my 45-minute sessions, and then life gets busy. You got kids, you got work, you've got things that pop up, and you just miss one 45-minute session, and you're just like, well, I can't do my 45 minutes. I'm not going to do anything. Get out there, do your 10 minutes of mobility, do your 15-minute walk. If you can't run and you want to run, do a brisk walk. Do whatever you can to make sure you're not limiting yourself to nothing. Again, consistency comes from continually moving. We need to make sure we're constantly moving, not slowing down. Take that dog for a walk. Get out, do what you need to do to make sure you're sticking with the program. Try to remember, longevity athletes show up imperfectly, but consistently. And those are our 5 items for the video today. Now, if you get on this and you start knocking out those 5, I promise you're gonna be in a better place in January than you've probably ever been leading into the new year. You're gonna have a plan. You're gonna know what you should be training, what you should be working in terms of mobility on, what nutrition changes you need to make, how to stay consistent. You're gonna be able to do it all a little bit better. It all comes down to a realistic plan. It all comes down to making sure you are challenging yourself to do something that you haven't done before, right? It feels great to be the guy doing 80 push-ups. It feels great to be the girl doing 10 pull-ups. If you can do that though, and you're already A-game at that, go challenge yourself to be elite at something else. Be well-rounded, be that longevity athlete, and of course, never settle with yesterday. I'll see you on the next video.